Hey, welcome back to Max Nave Horsemanship again. And I just did a recent video on, well, it's about the weight of a horse and, overfeeding and things like that, and how we're so used to seeing obese horses that when we see a horse that's actually proper weight, we think there's something wrong with it because we're not used to that. And there's a couple other factors that also can really mess with you too, is age and breed. Both of those can have a significant effect on our perception of what we see because, well, depending on the age and breed of the horse, it can actually considerably change how it looks. And I'm going to give you a few examples of that. We're going to go take a walk out in the pasture today, and it'll probably be a fairly short video, but we're going to go take a look at some of the other horses out there. And I'm going to point out some of the different breeds out there and how they all look a little bit different because of age and breed, but in fact they're all on the same diet, and so most of them are in the same condition, but, well, potentially could be anyhow, but because of breed and age they don't look the same at all. And in fact some of them aren't the same, but I'll show you that to you when we get out there and wander around a little bit, and I'll point out some of the differences in the different horses based on breed and age, because those are the two major defining factors that will alter their appearance, even though, like I said, they all get the same diet right now. Actually every single one of them. No, that's not true. There is a couple that are getting some special needs in a couple of pens, but a long story. Basically, the only horses around here that are actually would be considered to be thin actually have medical issues, and there's actually a couple that a few people think that are thin that on closer examination I don't think they are. I think they're exactly where they should be. But like I said, people are so used to seeing fat horses that when they see one that's normal, they think it's actually thin, and that is exactly the case. So anyhow, stick with me here. Put your warm coat on. It's a little chilly out there today. And let's go for a walk in the pasture and take a look at some of the horses.
Now, I've mentioned that we have to consider age and breed when we're looking at horses. Now, if you look at this particular horse, the ribs are just barely showing today. I just noticed the sun's hitting just right. But if you look up at the back, you'll see there actually is a little bit of spine. So that would make you think, well, maybe she's a little thin. But then if you look a little further back, it disappears. And she actually doesn't look too bad. And, well, in spite of the fact that the first time ever I've noticed you can actually see some ribs because the sun is hitting just right. Well, what you got to realize also here is this horse is 30 years old. Like I said, age and breed can both be factors. And, this one, overall, I'll tell you, for a 30-year-old, she looks pretty darn good. Now, this one here is an example of, well, actually of a couple things. First off, you can look at her back and you go, this is a sway back horse because of the shape of her back. No, she's not. She's always had that shape. That's her shape. She's always been like that her entire life. And I've had vets look at her and they said there's nothing wrong with her. There's no kissing spine or anything like that. But other things you're going to notice is you actually can see a tiny bit of spine. Not too bad. But there is a tiny bit of spine there. But you'll also notice no ribs. You cannot see ribs. But going to the back here, this is something that they tell you to look for in underweight horses, is a tail that sticks out like that. When the tail, you see the tail coming out the top of the rear end like that, it's generally the indication of an emaciated horse. But in this horse, that's not the case, because she just happens to have weird shape. That's just her shape. Again, just like the weird sway back looking thing she's got going, she's got a weird tail too. the bones up here sticking out. That's usually another indication of emaciation too. In her case, no, that's her shape. Because if you actually take a look at the body, again, she looks fat down there, but again, that's her shape. It's a very odd shaped little horse. One other thing, you also have to realize this horse is 25 years old. Okay, so we don't expect her to look like a young horse. But again, every horse is shaped a little different. Also talked about how different breeds have different shapes to them and can very falsely indicate the weight wrong if you just glance at them. Now this one in particular, excuse me sir, this is a thoroughbred. And well, because of his height, I'm going to have to lift the camera up. Now, that might actually look like he's got a little bit of spine sticking up on him from the withers on back. It's actually a little bit, it's high to about here. From there back, not too bad. But actually, if you take a closer look, if you look down the side, you'll see you can't even see the ribs. As far as thoroughbreds go, this guy's probably borderline fat. And again, this is breed, where breed comes into. If you look at the spine and the hips, and you see it up on the top of the back there, you see that bump sticking up there? Yeah, that almost makes him look like he's maybe thin. Nope, that's his shape. He's a thoroughbred. That's the way they are. And I'll show you a couple more in a second. Another one of those long, lean, lanky thoroughbreds. And you'll notice no ribs. You cannot see any ribs on this one. None at all. And yet, if you look down the back, a little better view there, you'll notice you can see his spine sticking out. But that is a thoroughbred. And he's actually a fairly tall, lean horse. Although, again, probably borderline fat, actually. Even though he's still pretty thin. And what was actually funny is, I think it's the other one here, somebody actually thought he was skinny and needed to gain some weight. Well, I'll let you take a look at him and see what you think of that one. Okay, yet another thoroughbred here. And this one is the only one of the three. You can actually see his ribs. And I'm just noticing the sun hitting just right. You can actually see the ribs sticking out. And it's not for lack of feed, because, well, if you look down, you see, he's eating 24/7 hay at his disposal. And even right now he's eating. And actually, if you look up, look down the back, actually his spine looks better than the other two. Well, a little bit. But on this one, you can actually see his ribs, which makes him look thinner than he actually is. But again, breed, another thoroughbred. Now I'll just show you a couple of the other horses around here. There's a few of them unknown breeding, a few quarter horses, and we'll see what you think about those ones too. People connect the horse to the owner, and then next thing you know, they're beaking off, dissing the owner for how they care for the horse. And the horses out here are pretty well cared for. Now this one here, you'll notice there's no concavity there, but the spine's not sticking up either. And even looking at it this way, there's no spine. But he's not terribly old yet either, and that's where age also comes into play, is the younger horses tend not to show the fat or skinny as much as the older horses. Well, on this one, you can definitely see the concavity there. I think it's pretty safe to say this one is fat. Also happens to be one of mine. You want to diss me? Go ahead. I could probably give you quite a few more examples out here. Unfortunately, some of the horses are at the opposite end of the pasture at the moment that I would like to use. And, well, that would mean going for a walk for a couple of miles, actually, in total. So we're going to just show you what we got here and say, hey, this is what we get. And I just want to make it, I'm just making the point that age and breed can have a great effect on what you end up seeing. So don't be too quick to judge. And if you see a horse that's thin, don't automatically think that the owners are neglecting it. Quite often, maybe they just got the horse and they haven't put weight on it yet. Or maybe the horse has some underlying health issues. Right now, the only horses here that are actually thin do in fact have health issues. I know the owners of those horses, and they're making every effort possible to try and remedy the health problems that is causing the weight loss. So, don't jump to conclusions based on what you see. There's always more to the story. You don't know how old the horse is. You don't know what breed it is. You don't know where it came from, how long they've had it, or what they're actually feeding it. There are some horses that are very easy keepers. This one here, half Arab. Arabs are typically easy keepers. By breed, that's another one where breed factors in, is the Arabians, if they get the same diet as a lot of other horses, they'll get fat because they grow up in the desert. Well, that's where they originate, where there's very little to eat. So they develop a metabolism that makes them capable of surviving on very, very little. And when they get lots, like the other horses, they get fat. So don't jump to conclusions. Maybe they just got the horse. Maybe there's a problem with the horse. There was one I showed you at the beginning. When she first got here, she was emaciated. She was way underweight. And now she looks great, well, considering her age, because that's the 30-year-old one. Was it being neglected? No, it was not being neglected. The owner actually was attempting to take good care of it, and that's why she moved it from one place to another, where the horse could get some extra nutrition and put some weight on. And now she's got 24/7 hay plus grazing in the pasture, and she's doing perfectly fine. In fact, that old girl probably looks better than some of the horses around here. Anyhow, that's about it. Don't jump to conclusions. Consider age, health issues, breeding. There's a lot of factors. You can't just take a glance at a horse and say it is or isn't. No, there's always more to the picture. And I just wanted to take that opportunity right now to show you that. Have a good day.